Blink is here from Blink on Crime. We're talking about the Christine Sheddy case. I want to get into law enforcement a little bit more, the investigation itself. Investigation 101, it doesn't take an expert to figure out people don't usually walk away from all their clothes, all their children, and just, disappear to go find another life. Think of Drew Peterson and his one of his wives just disappeared. It doesn't take an expert to figure out something is wrong there. What's with law enforcement? I know you said that they bought into a story, but there has to be more than that. What did they do? What didn't they do?
Right. In fairness, Christine was I don't want to say in somewhat of a despair, but she was again in this cycle with Levi. She had been back at home living with her parents and her children, and from what I can tell, he pretty much enticed her with some type of plan, which we're not sure what it is, but it had to do with this particular farmhouse property. So she had an argument with her mom, which, if you've known, living with your, I don't know personally, but if you're a mom and living with your mom, I can imagine that's probably not the easiest situation. And Levi had beat her.
Yeah.
Levi had beat her about a month before she went missing, very badly, and she was, talking to him again in a friendly way, and I'm certain that was very disturbing for her parents. So I believe they bought in because of that, because she did leave her mom's house and said, I'm leaving. So
right.
There was a little bit of that. However, there have been 4 different detectives on this case. They had a deputy assigned for the whole first week, where and I know, in a missing persons case, you treat that property like a crime scene and work backwards.
Right.
And that didn't happen. I've heard a couple of different versions about forensics, but I've been there. And if you're performing forensics on a, for instance, rug that was removed from the house, it's not going to be in the garage.
No.
2 years later, where you can actually drive a car on it. A colleague of mine that has been on several searches on that property went out there, and to this day we're finding things that may or may not be pertinent. They found a piece of her clothing just this past May. One of the most disturbing things that bothered me was there was portions of a skull that washed up on Azatec Island, which is very close to this. Oh, I would say very close enough that it would be worth taking a look. And Lynn got this information. She went to the detective in that jurisdiction and with Christine's information. And unfortunately, the detectives in Pocomoke had not even input Christine's information and dental records into NCIC.
Oh, geez. Which
was shocking. I mean, it had been filled out a year and a half, or right away. It wasn't even in the database.
Is this a small police department, one that's not used to this type of investigation?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It is a small police department. No, they're not what I would call skilled in high-profile investigations or missing persons investigations. This is a highly rural area.
Yeah, okay. Well, that doesn't excuse it, but it does explain it a little bit.
Right. It doesn't excuse it. It does explain it. But, I've always been of the opinion that if something that you're doing isn't working, try something else.
Yeah, or ask for help. That's
exactly, ask for help. And one of the issues is the lead detective, Alex Kagan, actually put out a warrant for Christine for child abandonment. And when I saw that, I nearly fell over.
Oh,
I called Lynn and I said, well, what is this about? And she said, well, I was told that he put that warrant out there because, God forbid, if she is alive and she does surface, then if she's arrested for something, then they'll put her on a hold.
A way to pick her up, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But if she's in if she's in any missing persons database, that would have been done automatically.
Yeah. No, exactly.
There is no reason that I'm aware of in that jurisdiction, having researched it, that makes any sense to me.
No, it doesn't make sense, and there's other ways to make sure that people get picked up if they're missing. I want to get into the cast of characters here, and believe me, there's a cast of characters. I love the pictures.
Yeah.
Dominic and Aaron, let's talk about them.
Dominic and Aaron von Gravenitz. Dominic is about 5'5". His wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, is about 6'1". They've got, between the two of them, 8 kids, I believe.
Jeez.
Dominic was one of the most vocal people who professed he was not there.
Mm-hmm.
He has been on several blogs with different versions and storylines, and none of them make sense. He was there on the 13th. There's no indicating car coming or going on the 12th or 13th that he arrived or left, so I will say that. However, on the 13th, he was standing on the roof with Junior at about 1 p.m., and so, as I say, there was no comings or goings, so he had to be there. And he was standing on the roof with Junior because on the 9th of November, there was a flue fire at the property, which burned a hole in the roof. And so they were patching that. And at this time, as I mentioned earlier on, there was a significant feud going with the neighbors. So this neighbor was watching them like a hawk. Not only did they have surveillance, but the comings and goings, could tell you who was who, etc. So she's identified him as being there on the 13th without question.
Right.
So my question would be, why would you lie?
Exactly.
And then you have and his wife Erin was not there at the gathering,
mm-hmm.
by all accounts. And that was also one of the things that I was told, was that one of the initial deputies said, well, to tell you the truth, there's really no crime scene, so we can't call it a missing persons case. There's no indication of foul play. We can't even prove Christine was here. And my question was, well, how did her kids get here, A? And B, you just took witness statements from 6 other people that said she was here.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like it's a mixed-up department that maybe, I hate to say that because I'm a huge supporter of law enforcement that just doesn't have the experience when it comes to these sorts of investigations. Is anybody...